How do you follow something like Baby Reindeer? Something so massive, so universally praised. What do you do next? That was exactly the problem Richard Gadd had when deciding what to do next. And it turns out it really wasn't that big of a problem at all, because as he told me today, Half Man, his new limited series that is coming soon to HBO, was always in his mind, even as the whole acclaim for Baby Reindeer was happening. So, Richard is my guest today on the Parting Shot podcast, and we talked a lot about how he sort of conceptualized the success of Baby Reindeer, but also how he really just focused on the work as the world was responding to the phenomenon that was Baby Reindeer. Now, if you remember, Baby Reindeer was Richard's very personal story about an experience he had with a particular fan and how that sort of changed his life. Now, that series, which was on Netflix, it became a phenomenon and it won quite literally every award you could possibly win for a television project like that. And so, Richard, there was a lot of eyes on Richard and what he was doing, and it sets up a huge, sort of expectations for what to do next. And I can tell you after watching Half Man that Richard did the right thing because wow, this series is it's a limited series. It is about two sort of brothers, not quite brothers. They're in different mothers. It's a whole thing. Their toxic relationship over the years. It deals with masculinity. It deals with toxic masculinity. It deals with queer issues. It deals with identity. It deals with so many different things in a way that is sort of both a drama and it's gripping, of course, but it's also kind of a thriller as well, and it's terrifying. Richard's performance in this, he physically had to become quite literally a different person in a lot of ways, and his muscles are a big part of this. His physicality is a very big part of this performance. And so I talked to him a little bit about that and also co-starring with the great Jamie Bell, who of course, he's a fantastic actor. I've been a fan of Jamie Bell ever since he first debuted with Billy Elliot. I've always thought that he deserved an Oscar nomination for Billy Elliot. And so I've always been a big fan of Jamie, and Richard and Jamie's performances and their chemistry in this show is just next level. So I really think you're going to enjoy my chat with Richard. We got a little silly with some things, and he was just a good sport about having a good chat. So sit back and grab a snack because I will be right back with Richard Gadd to talk all about his new HBO limited series, Half Man. It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. How you doing?
I'm doing great now that I'm chatting with you. I'm a big fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah, of course. So I guess the first obvious question is after like the
Mm.
massive success of Baby Reindeer, I mean, the massive, massive global success, was it intimidating figuring out what you're going to do next? Because that would terrify the shit out of me. I'm sorry to be crass, but I have to say.
uh, I don't know. I think pressure is only pressure to the degree in which you let it in.
Mm.
I sort of I think like external pressure is always going to be there, but it's nothing compared to the pressure I put on myself to try and make something as good as possible. I think it was just lucky that I knew what I wanted to do after Baby Reindeer, and
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to do this, and that provided a clarity of feeling and meaning to me that allowed me to kind of move past any sort of feelings of pressure or expectation off the back of Baby Reindeer. I think in a lot of ways the best thing I did at that point was kind of spin 180 and just go straight into my next project. And it was literally straight into my next project. I mean, the whole of Half Man has pretty much been done in the space of about 2 years, which is takes boys are taking a lot out of me. But I sort of I didn't pause to let that kind of
Mhm.
feeling in. I just wanted to move on to the next thing and try to make it as good as possible.
Well, then, I mean, I guess the follow-up to that would be, I mean, considering that success and how big it was, you could have really done anything. I mean, I'm sure you were getting lots of offers with money. And so, like, what made you wanna do this then? What made this the obvious next project?
Well, I think I always think that your own work should always come above any other kind of opportunity, and I think like ultimately at the end of the day, I feel most fulfilled by doing what I've done all the way through my life, which is create a sort of idea from the ground up and oversee it to its conclusion. I guess money's not a motivating factor for me, like in that
Mhm.
respect. And I did have a lot of offers, crazy offers in a lot of ways, but I turned them all down to do this because ultimately my heart was telling me that this is what I needed to do next, and
Mhm.
that's kind of that's kind of what it was in a way. Yeah, I just had to do it next. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. And like one of the things that I'm so glad you did this project next because I loved it and you know, I have all brothers and I'm the only gay one. And so I'm obsessed with the sort of portrayal of masculinity and sort of the myriad of ways of masculinity within this story and these characters. I mean, you go from the extreme to the extreme on lots of different ways. And so I wanted to know like what was it about masculinity, like, specifically, that it seems like that was something you really wanted to sort of talk about within this project? At least that's what screamed out at me. So, like, what is it about that that you wanted to convey?
I think I just wanted to dig deep inside the whole kind of issue of it, all the contradictions, all the idiosyncrasies, all the pressures, all the expectations of what it means to be a man. It just felt like something that called me to write about it. I can't really boil it down to any one thing, and it's not like I tried to get to the heart of what it means to be a man. I didn't go in to seek answers to questions that I've been grappling with my entire life. It just felt like something which called me to write about it. I came up with the two characters and I couldn't shake them, and I just had to I just had to explore it in a way, and I went in with kind of limited intention and maximum ambition, and
Mm,
that's kind of how I suppose I go about most of my projects. I never really wanted to. I can't really say what it is about it that makes it interesting to me, other than I just think it's a whole complex theme, and that's kind of what I like to explore in my work.
yeah, I mean, there is this well, and even to the masculinity of it all, like, as an American, I've gone to the UK many times, and one of the things that I've always sort of been fascinated by many of my I'll say my straight male British friends is they're kinda gay, and, like, the way their friendship the way male bonding works in the UK, frankly, I've always been a little, like, is a little bit gayer than we do in the US. We're a little bit more prude. So, like, what is it about, I think, the Britishness of this story that I think makes the conversation around the masculinity of these characters and sort of that bond even more compelling, I think, in a lot of ways?
Well, I think like not necessarily the Britishness as far as the kind of setting or the Scottishness of it almost in a
Yes.
way. Like I thought what was interesting is placing the kind of story within Glasgow was really, I thought, interesting in terms of a backdrop to the show because I you know, Glasgow is a city that has gone through phenomenal change from a kind of city that was deemed scary and dangerous place to be to one of the cultural LGBT capitals of the world,
Yeah.
and that felt like an interesting backdrop. It's almost like the city was progressing more than the characters were. Like these two repressed men that can't move with the times, yet even the city's expanding and progressing faster than they are, and that just felt like an interesting uh, backdrop to the story. Ultimately, like aspects of sort of Britishness or Scottishness didn't seep into the story as much as just trying to pull the naughtiness of the characters out the other way.
Mhm.
Um, ultimately, I just took two men and I tried to just make their story, their journey as naughty and as complicated, and their relationship as naughty and as complicated as I could.
Yeah. You also do something that, like, I think every young queer male, I'm sure it's also spans many different types of people too, but particularly from my experience, there's that the fear and intimidation of a hyper masculine man. And like for me, watching it, I was thinking like one of the most stressful things, trauma inducing things for me in my life is buying a new car because of the men I have to deal with and the way in which they communicate. It is literally, I feel like I'm a victim of a hate crime when they're just trying to bargain with me. And and that's kind of the vibe that I get from a lot of the interactions in the story is that you really feel that fear and intimidation and the power play that is involved in some of these relationships. Did you feel that in sort of creating the story between these two?
I think that that was a part of it. What I was interested in exploring most of all was the depths to human repression, not just in terms of sexuality, but in terms of sort of all kinds of repression. I mean, Ruben's a deeply repressed person, just in a very different way. And I wanted to explore that repression. And I think what Ruben brings in to the series is a sense of chaos and power, which Niall deflects a lot of stuff onto. Just because Ruben is intimidating and scary and prone to deep violent outbursts, there is a sense of intimidation from Niall, naturally of him, but also in which he can displace some of his feelings and blame externally as well. So I think Ruben not only had to be intimidating just as a character, so we buy his character, and so we buy this kind of example of masculinity that exists within the series, but it was important as almost an excuse that Niall would make to himself as to why he couldn't come out or progress in his own life. And I just
Mhm.
felt it gave quite a lot to the story in that respect.
Yeah, for sure. Well, also too, I mean, there is this right now, especially in the world and some of the world leaders we have and whatever, the conversation of that sort of the hyper masculine, and a lot of sort of the what they I think they call them male feminists or something. I don't know what they call them, but like the men out there, these groups out there that want to reclaim masculinity. And there's a lot of conversations around that. And I think I know the answer to this question, but like what do you hope people take from the portrayal of these two masculine characters about masculinity? Or do you hope they take anything? Or is it up for just interpretation?
Well, the latter, I think. I mean, I would never want my or any viewers that watch Half Man to take anything specific from it. I think art should be open to interpretation, and people take what they need from it. Like I think too often in this day and age, television and film, it's too clear its intention. It's too clear
Yeah.
what it wants you to think and feel, and I just don't think that's correct in a lot of ways. I think if you in an art gallery and you're standing next to a painter and he's pointing at different parts of the painting, saying, "Well, I did this brushstroke because of this reason, and behind this character's eyes is this," and I
Yeah.
think it kind of loses the magic in a way. I think I don't ask for anything from my audience. I think if they take something from it, that's what it is. I mean, a lot of people ask about the ending, and a lot of people say, "Oh, what does it mean?" And I usually go, "Well, what do you think it means?" And they go, "Well, I think it means this." And I say, "Well, that's probably what it is then, because that's what it is to you." And that I think is just how I think art should exist in a way. I might be wrong, but that's kind of how I feel.
No, I agree. The other thing that I think is I mean, you have these two central characters that really are sort of the driver of everything, but also the physicality of your performance. It almost is a supporting your muscles are a supporting character in this story because your body almost becomes and the way in which you hold your body, it becomes another character that is just as intimidating. How important was it for you to physically transform so that you could be that sort of brute force that was so intimidating?
Yeah, I think it was important artistically for my performance, sort of everything. I felt like Ruben needed to, as an adult, the weight needed to be felt in his body. I wanted it to feel like life was in his body. I didn't want like a kind of Hollywood six pack or like all
Yeah.
this stuff. I wanted it to feel like a real, like burly is the word that I would
Mhm.
kept saying to the kind of personal trainers and nutritionists. He needs to be a burly kind of man. And I just wanted to feel real and him to feel real. And I thought actually the second that he looks like a gym bro is almost like a character. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be correct
Little too gay.
character wise.
Little too gay. Like, if he's a gym bro, it'd be a little too gay. Yes.
I just felt like Ruben does like his body is a natural byproduct of his kind of innate primal strength in a way.
Yeah.
I almost wanted it like I felt like if he looked like he preened himself too much in the gym, then he he cares too much. Ruben's not about self-image, you know,
Mhm.
but I felt like it was important as in his later life as an example of masculinity that he kind of looked like one, and that I towered over Jamie Bell, and I looked thicker and wider and taller than him in sort of in that respect, and I just really felt like it was important, and I wanted to feel the character in my body as well. I wanted to feel that strength and that weight, and I felt for people to go on a journey in believing Donnie Dunn is now Ruben Pallister. I needed to transform almost absolutely everything about myself,
Yeah.
and I guess that's what I did, and so it was kind of useful for in a myriad of ways.
After you finished, though, what was the first thing you wanted to eat that you could eat, you couldn't eat before?
It's just so funny you say that because I on the last day of set, I got but they surprised me with a McDonald's and if I told you it, you wouldn't believe what I ate in one sitting.
I think I would. I think I would. I think I would, and a McDonald's is exactly what you should eat after something like that.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a long time coming, and yeah, I won't take you through what it was, but it was a healthy stack. Well, not a
I
healthy stack, but you know what I mean.
I just hope
Hearty.
a milkshake was involved in some process of that. You bring up Jamie Bell, and Jamie Bell, I think, is one of the most underrated actors of the past however many years he's been working since he's a kid, and I don't feel like he gets a lot of the credit that he sometimes deserves in what he brings to a role.
Mm.
I in a lot of ways, he's had so many wonderful performances, and in this, I mean, the 2 of you together, it's you're right, the disparity between the heights and the physicality and everything is just the way he's able to own it, it almost is like a dancer in a way working around this tree stump of a man that you are, and so, like, there is this sort of he just does it so well. What was it like establishing that intimate relationship the 2 of you had to have in order to do this story?
Well, I mean, I agree with you first and foremost. I think he's a terrifically celebrated actor, but I still think at the same time underrated in a sense. And
Yeah,
and I always wondered what he was capable of, and now I know that he's capable of this and more. I really think he's a phenomenal actor and capable of vulnerability and layered performance, all kinds of things. We got on straight away, which helped, you know, like and we had an ease around each other. I think the second scene we ever shot was the ending of episode 6, and so we had to get very physically comfortable around each other very, very, very quickly, and I actually think it helped. We spoke a lot, me and Jamie, about how actually starting in that moment helped. It kind
mhm,
of threw us in the deep end, and we had to go on a journey together as actors in terms of getting, like, really, kinda intimate with one another, but
mhm,
he threw himself into everything. There was always a fear that, you know, an actor of his caliber comes over and they're reluctant to do things, or they don't wanna get in the mud, or they don't wanna get in this cubicle and do this now, and
yeah,
or that they'd be stubborn on notes or stubborn in terms of feedback. But he threw himself into everything. I felt a phenomenal amount of respect from him around the project and what he had to do.
yeah.
And like I say, we hit it off kind of immediately, and that kind of helped us shortcut our way to the heart of the story.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my last question for you is I think for a lot of people, you know, this and Baby Reindeer are going to be the two things that like we know you for at this point, and they're both, I mean, amazing and serious and gut wrenching. I think in a lot of ways. And I guess my question of to that is, do you just want to do a comedy next or something? Like, do you just want to like, do you want to do like a fully absurd, like not serious, no crying? Like, do you want to do that?
I think I do whatever takes me next. Like I want to do whatever compels me to. If it is a kind of lighthearted comedy, then I guess that's what I do. I think right now in my life, I don't feel compelled to write sort of like a workplace sitcom or whatever. It doesn't speak to me.
We're
But
not
if I
getting a
go,
rom-com from
yeah,
you, you mean?
rom-com, but I say never in a lot of ways because I think if something inspired me, if I walked down the street one day and I thought, "Oh, this is a perfect idea for a rom-com," I would do it and I would take that risk. Right now, I just think my sensibilities are a little more kind of, I don't know, idiosyncratic, or I don't know how you would describe them. I don't really know how to kind of bottle Baby Reindeer into Half Man into one sort of bracket, but I think my sensibilities are just not at the stage where I want to do that. But I love sitcoms and I love all kinds of different art forms. So if my life called upon it, I would certainly do it.
Wonderful. Well, Richard, I'm such a big fan of yours. It's been a real pleasure
Thank you.
chatting with you, and I mean it. It's this show hit me in a way that has me thinking about things, which I think is exactly the point.
Oh, thank you so much, and thanks for great questions. I appreciate it. Lovely
Wonderful.
chatting.
Have a great day. Take care.
You as well. Bye.
Bye-bye. I'm really glad he came to kind of play because you know me, I'm kind of ridiculous. And he had a lot of fun with a lot of our back and forth. And the show is so good. You really should check it out. It is so, so good. Go to HBO. You can check it out. It's definitely worth a watch and it will make you think about a lot of things. Thanks so much for checking out today's episode of the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can follow me at H. Allen Scott on everything. And in the meantime, watch something fun today and have a good one.